G'day folks, Scott here. Welcome to another video. Now I hadn't actually planned on doing a review video this week. I haven't been to the cinemas this week. Nothing new came out that I was interested in. But today on my day off, I watched a new pretty low budget horror movie called The Void. And it was so fucking cool that I really wanted to speak to you about it and try and get as many of you to check this thing out as possible. Now, this is more for my hardcore horror type fans, you know, like this is a throwback to 80s and 90s and maybe early 2000s cinema. It's not about CGI, it's for those dudes who like practical effects movies. It's pretty gory, it's pretty full on. I enjoyed it immensely. Obviously, me being no trailers and all, I heard about this on websites. I have for years followed a website called Ain't It Cool News, run by a guy named Harry Knowles. I usually find out most I need about most modern cinema and pop culture cinema and horror cinema and things like that without having to look elsewhere, and I don't tend to watch trailers for things. If I see a lot of positive hype for something on there, I can usually agree that it's going to be something I'm mostly into. Now, this film throws back to, you know, those classic movies that dealt with the real, H.P. Lovecraft theme and other dimensional beings theme. In the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, there was a director named Stuart Gordon, and he made some very popular horror movies. First it was Reanimator, and then he made From Beyond. Years and years later, he made another one called Dagon. Now, these were all based on H.P. Lovecraft type stories, or directly on his stories, and, you know, were great, very different from one another, but about other dimensional beings and evil shit in another universe that knocks nothing more than to come and, you know, feast upon us. So Hellraiser here is another example of a movie with a bad guy from another dimension. And there was Event Horizon, which had Sam Neill in it, which is also a pretty good movie, probably the best one that director made. And they all deal with similar themes. So this movie is down that path. It has that whole Cthulhu, other dimension, H.P. Lovecraft kind of thing. Now, it's made by two guys. One name's, sorry to look at my phone, but I can't remember their names, Jeremy Gillespie and Stephen Konstanski. Now, I had a look on IMDb, and these two guys are actually art department and makeup FX guys who have worked on a lot of big movies like Suicide Squad and a few other. You can look up their stuff, but it seems to be the first time they've collaborated to make a movie together. It's really cool. I don't want to tell you heaps about it, but the basic premise is that this cop finds a guy out in the woods who's all kinds of messed up, and he takes him to a hospital emergency department in a small town to get him seen to. Shit goes bad. They end up being trapped inside this place. They can't leave, but it's terrible to stay inside with what happens in there, and you can find the rest out when you watch it. Now, I can't see anything about big cinema release. There's definitely some art house theaters running this movie. I'm sure it'll be available digitally pretty soon. So, you know, just see it by whatever means necessary. If you're a big fan of like practical FX movies, you know, especially like The Thing, which is this prestigious movie for having this like benchmark level special effects, this isn't at all going to reach that kind of level thing. It's a much newer movie, but it's a movie that all the gore and practical effects, they all relied upon practical, and it's great. It's really good. Most of the effects are fantastic. There's one sort of sketchy thing later on in the piece, but overall it was great. It's really gory. It's really tense. It was a good movie. So I don't have much more to say about it. I really think you should check it out. If you've never seen the other movies I mentioned earlier, if you're a newer horror fan and you've not seen Reanimator, From Beyond, Dagon, any of the first two specifically Hellraiser movies, maybe even the third if you're feeling brave, but don't worry about the rest. Event Horizon. If you haven't seen all these movies I mentioned earlier in the review, do yourself a favor and check them out as well. They're all a pretty good watch. So that's all I've got. I just wanted to talk to you about this movie. You should definitely check it out if you like horror. And I'll be back to review some other stuff soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.